Kevin O'Connell, J.J. McCarthy. Kevin runs advanced schemes. This is like McVay. Matt Stafford is a sharp guy, and that's one of the reasons that McVay was so attracted to him in Detroit. I've seen the study habits of Stafford. They're kind of legendary. So do you think the advanced schemes, because I like Minnesota's offensive personnel, do you think the advanced schemes help or hurt J.J. McCarthy? Help or hurt him?
Well, I think they're advanced, but in other ways they're theoretically simpler in the sense that what Kevin O'Connell is really good at, just like Kyle Shanahan is really good at, is they're really good at getting the primary read open and available for the quarterback, because they're really good at understanding defenses, which is critical as a play caller. You're not calling plays in a vacuum. You're calling plays based on your sense of defensive tendency and probability. And one thing Kevin O'Connell's really good at, we saw that with Sam Darnold last year, which is why Sam had such a good season. One of the reasons anyway, is he's so good at getting that primary read open. And that will be critical for J.J. McCarthy this year, because my guess is J.J. McCarthy in these early stages of his development is not going to be great yet at working through progression, certainly not full field progressions. So I think that's a critical piece of how J.J. McCarthy can do this year. And all that gets tied in with your footwork and the timing of routes. There's so much that goes into that. That will be a work in progress as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And, what Greg Cosell was saying, he didn't exactly say this, but I know he said this in the past, and I've said this too as well. Kevin O'Connell does such a great job for his quarterbacks of not only getting those primary reads open, but really helping define and clarify where the ball needs to go for the quarterback. And what he did with Sam Darnold was like a pure progression style offense. And it's just, again, I'd have to go back and find the clip from Greg Cosell, ironically, where he was talking about, the primary job of an offensive coordinator or an offensive head coach in this situation is to simplify the offense. And he said it where he's like, people always get upset when you say this because people associate that with saying like, oh, like you need this simplified for you, or like you're not smart enough to run a complicated offense. And it's like, that's not what it is. It's the job of every single offensive coordinator to make it as easy as possible for their quarterback. And that's where a Kevin O'Connell should ideally shine with a J.J. McCarthy. Now, to be fair, like Greg Cosell is saying here, is that there's a certain level of development that a quarterback will need to be able to do that then allows Kevin O'Connell to really help clarify and define, the offense here. But since you're in those early stages, that is now where Kevin O'Connell has to really shine and say, okay, it's kind of like, put it this way. I always try to figure out like the dumbest and simplest way to explain these types of things. It's like, if in order for a quarterback to get the full power, he needs to be able to do A, B, C, and D, right? And when a quarterback is at full power and he can do A, B, C, and D, Kevin O'Connell's like, great, I now can do all of this. I have A, B, C, and D available to me. And when I have A, B, C, D available to me, I know how to really clearly define and clearly show my quarterback A, B, C, D. But now he's dealing with a quarterback who's just A and B. And now he has to figure out, how do I clearly identify A and B for my quarterback? I'm used to doing it A, B, C, and D. When I have a quarterback who has A, B, C, and D, they don't have to be amazing at A, B, C, and D, but as long as it's there, I can simplify this and make this super easy for everyone to rock and get with it. But when I have a quarterback who's only A and B, things kind of shrink down a little bit, and I got to figure out my way through this. I got to figure out how do we do this, as well as trying to simultaneously try to figure out, when do we add in C and D? When do we try to add this to the pool here? And that's why I've said about Kevin O'Connell, is that we've seen Kevin O'Connell specifically succeed. I understand he's had a little bit of success with some of these other backup quarterbacks. That was short-lived and understandable because they're backup quarterbacks. They're backup quarterbacks. But with Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold, these were experienced quarterbacks. They'd been in the NFL for quite a bit of time, especially with Kirk Cousins. It's completely different than being with J.J. McCarthy. It's night and day. It's not even close. They're just at completely different levels of their development. It's not a matter of how great someone can be or what their career potential is. It's where you're at. Okay? If I'm teaching a 25-year-old who's just not that smart, right? I can only go so far in having a certain conversation with him, but there could be a 17-year-old who's a super genius, but he's going to be even smarter when he hits 25. But when he's only 17, I'm still limited with some of the discussions and some of the things that I can ask him to do. So it's like sometimes it's just time. It just takes time. And that's what this will take as well. And that is why that was always the issue, not the issue, but the dilemma that the Vikings had, where it's like, hey, with Sam Darnold, we won a lot of games. We can win a lot of games. And we will most likely have to take at least a half a step backwards, with J.J. McCarthy. Just by virtue of him not being able to do everything that Sam Darnold can do in this present moment. And we have to figure out how fast can we get J.J. McCarthy up to speed, where now that part doesn't matter. And does what J.J. McCarthy, what he can do, is it great enough to overcome, is his A and B great enough that it's okay that his C and D are a little bit behind, and that'll come around? Because that definitely can be. If you think Patrick Mahomes was a complete football player the moment he stepped foot on that field in 2018, it's just not true. He's gotten better and better. And he's talked about that with what, with getting better at giving what Andy's kind of displaying for him, giving what, taking what the defense has given him, making better decisions at different points in the game. So these things take time. These things absolutely positively take time, especially when you're coming off a year where you've been injured and you haven't really been on the field. So we're about to learn. This is interesting. Outside of J.J. McCarthy just being awful, honestly, outside of him just being like, oh boy, this guy is he just is overwhelmed. There's too much going on, just outside of a situation like that, which I'm not saying is going to happen. We're about to learn so much about Kevin O'Connell. Because like I said, we've seen Kevin O'Connell with like actual experienced quarterbacks, obviously different levels, but still experienced quarterbacks. Now we get to see how he can actually develop a quarterback and help grow, evolve, and elevate a quarterback who is raw and needs to genuinely be developed and grow. And if he succeeds at that, I mean, that's just you're just in the perfect spot. Your coach now shows you that he can do it all, which is what I've always emphasized about an Andy Reid, Sean McVay. We're still seeing if that's Matt LaFleur. Not 100% sure. We're trying to see if that's with Shanahan. Not 100%. You can be a great coach. I'm not going to go through the whole rant again about the whole differences of different types of coaches, of elevating great to elite, bad to great, like all the different levels that you can do it as. But like if Kevin O'Connell succeeds with this, even if he just makes even if JJ McCarthy is just a good quarterback who then became like pretty good, it's just like you could still see the development, but it's just like JJ just wasn't quite what you thought he could be, and just because of who he is as a quarterback, it's still a home run for Kevin O'Connell. Now you'll feel so much more comfortable over the years of, because again, ideally Kevin O'Connell is going to be your coach beyond, because he's so young, especially. Ideally if you're a Vikings fan, you're hoping that Kevin O'Connell is going to be, he's going to coach beyond JJ McCarthy. And so you want to be able to have the feeling that like in any situation, if JJ ever goes down or you got to draft another quarterback, whatever the random situations happen over a 20, 30, 40 year career, just knowing that Kevin O'Connell can do it all is an absolute superpower. It's an absolute superpower. And yeah, so that's what I'm actually really excited to see is Kevin O'Connell's coaching style with clearly a quarterback that will need development. And we're seeing this kind of simultaneously as also with Ben Johnson. And we'll find out if Ben Johnson succeeds in that, because that's actually that's the low-hanging fruit and perfect example. We've seen what Ben Johnson can do with an established quarterback. We have never, not even close, seen what Ben Johnson could do with a quarterback who needs to be developed. And there's no guarantee that a coach has both skill sets, because they are completely 1,000% different skill sets. It's like there's minimal overlap. Minimal overlap. I was talking to my dad about this the other day, because my dad's starting to get into pickleball, and he was saying how, like, you know, there's these coaches now who only they'll charge you like $300 an hour or whatever, and he's like, they only work with, like, you know, if you're not good enough, they won't work with you. And I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense. I was like, that's how it is in all sports. You know, there's going to be a certain percentage of coaches who are like, I'm only here to work with the great players, the players who I can make even better. Like, I'm not here to teach you the basics or fundamentals. Like, I don't have the strength or the energy, nor do I even have the tools to be able to, like, make sure, like, you know, you're always keeping your hands and your feet pointed this way and that. And it's just like, it's not even how my mind works anymore. It's like, I can't teach you 1 + 1 = 2. I can teach you, you know, permutations and you know, other statistical analyses, but like I'm not here to teach you 1 + 1 = 2. And in fact, at this point, it's hard for me to even diagnose when you don't even know 1 + 1 = 2, because it's just not where I'm looking at. At the moment I see even something resembling that, I'm just like, what? I don't know. Goodbye. See ya. And that's how that's how a lot of coaches are, quite frankly. A lot of coaches, especially coaches who are, you know, trying to tutor the best of the best of the best. So I'm excited to see this relationship and this growth play out between JJ and Kevin O'Connell. And yeah, like Justin Jefferson said, patience. You're going to need patience. And that is why the Vikings were legitimately contemplating, what's the play here? We have a great roster. We have a great team. We have a great coaching staff. We also have a great defensive coach on the other side of the ball, which you never know how long that will last. What do we do here? Is a Sam Darnold the play? Like, you know, if Aaron Rodgers is good enough, do we want him? Do we have to just, you know, play the development game with JJ? Like, how fast can we develop him? It was a real conversation that a lot of fans tried to deny was happening, but it was indeed happening. So I'm excited to see how it plays out. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Minnesota Vikings and JJ McCarthy, Kevin O'Connell, and how this is all going to unfold, and how much pressure do you think is on JJ McCarthy? I think there's a lot, but let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.